Welcome to the Work Camping with Why Not Wonder podcast. Today we are going to talk about how to start work camping, and this will be the most comprehensive resource you will ever see on how to start work camping.
Let's start out by discussing what work camping is. Now, there are a lot of different definitions out there. We believe work camping is working for a campground or an RV resort, or possibly even an employer that provides your site or a site plus wages for a season.
There are different kinds of arrangements with work camping jobs, and you can work for site only or site plus wages, whatever your needs are. If you want to be in a really cool area like Yellowstone for an entire summer and just work for your site so you have tons of time to explore, just make sure that the hours equal decent rates for your site. You don't want to work 40 hours a week for your site, no matter where you're at in the country. That's not a good deal. And then also remember that minimum wages in the state that you're working in, if you're working for pay, minimum wages in that state are going to determine probably around what you're going to make at the campground. So you can do that research ahead of time and kind of gather some information that way.
Now, what kind of work camping jobs are there? There are all different kinds. We're just going to talk about a few here. You could work retail. Some of them have on-site stores. You could work in the office. You could work maintenance or doing yard work, leading people to their sites. Also, if there are things that you love, that you have an interest in, maybe you have a CDL and you love to drive, you could work at a national park driving their shuttle buses. If you're a nurse, maybe you love that type of work, you could work as a nurse on their medical team at maybe a national park. So there are all kinds of work camping jobs.
Yeah, two other ones that I can think of are if you love to plan parties and activities and stuff, those jobs are all over the place, and especially all over the place in the winter months at the 55 plus resorts. They always need people for that kind of stuff. And so if you're a people person, those are so perfect. And then the other thing is you can work at a ski resort in the winter, which is awesome if you love to ski. That's not something we would ever in a million years do, but tons of people love to do that. How to actually get started? Well, first of all, you need to put together a professional resume. If you're working as a couple, we don't recommend couples resumes. We recommend individual resumes. For instance, I have medical experience and other administrative experience that is very valuable, whereas he has very valuable experience in like law enforcement, in CDL type stuff, anything like that. So these types of things are important to be able to highlight to employers from a work camping perspective. Now, that's what you want to do on your resume. You want to make sure that you're thinking about it from a work camping perspective. How can you benefit that campground with the skills that you have?
Yeah, and you also need to be thinking ahead. You need to know when to apply for these jobs. You want to apply at least a season in advance, 3 to 6 months. And you also want to decide what part of the country you want to be in. So that's really important to consider those things when you're applying.
When you're considering the climate of where you're going to be, think about things like Florida in the summer equals insane humidity. But if you're going to go out west, you also have a couple things that you need to remember. The first being wildfires. That's something that if you have asthma or other respiratory conditions, you definitely want to make sure that you consider that, because that can be a very real thing. We've experienced it personally. The other thing you want to think about is elevation changes. When you're out west, like once we hit South Dakota, we're from Michigan. So we're used to I think we're at 700 some feet. Once we hit South Dakota, I was started to be like, why can I not breathe the same as we were walking into a store? It was very different. So if you decide to do that, give yourself time to acclimate as you get out to those places. But then also once you get there, make sure that you have what you need to be able to acclimate. Make sure you're staying hydrated, all that kind of stuff. But those are really important things to think about.
Look for jobs that align with your lifestyle needs as well. The hours, the physical requirements, if they're pet friendly, and you also need to be honest about your physical limitations as well.
Yeah, that's super important, because I actually had an experience when I was at one of our recent jobs where the woman applied, one of my coworkers, she had applied to work in a certain position, and she was very honest with them about her physical limitations. She said, I can't be on my feet for a long time. I need to have a place to sit. I need to make sure that I'm not under a lot of stress, that kind of thing. And we ended up in a job together where we were on our feet for the entire time we were working, and we were having to lift heavy packages, and we were having to carry them for a good amount of a distance as far as her health was concerned. So these things are super important to be honest about, because you want to make sure that you end up in a position that fits for you and for the employer. And then remember, if you're applying for jobs like outdoor hospitality, this is something that didn't even cross my mind when we were decided to do this job together. So we were on the outdoor hospitality team. I didn't even think about the fact that if it rained or was just absolutely miserable weather, that we were going to still have to work in it. Like, that was like the first day it happened. I was like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. So pouring down rain and we're still outside cleaning sites. Freezing cold or blazing hot, it did not matter. We still had to show up and do the job outside. So make sure you're taking all of that kind of stuff into consideration. If you have a dream of living the full-time RV life, you're chasing more than making money on the road. You're chasing freedom. But getting to full-time RV life can have you stuck in endless research and deep down the YouTube rabbit hole. That's why we've built the Full-Time RV Life Academy, a step-by-step course that will guide you every step of the way so that you can stop spinning your wheels and start living the life that you've been dreaming of. Imagine finally having one place with everything you need to know to become a full-time RVer. You don't have to wonder if you're missing something with all of that research, because we've lived it all and made the mistakes for you for the last several years. Don't spend another year stuck in someday. Check it out today at whynotwonder.com/RV Academy and start chasing that life of freedom today. We'll have a link below.
Where do you find work camping jobs?
Well, the first place is our guide. I created a guide for 35 websites that you can use to find work camping jobs. You will find nothing like this out there, and I did it from where we were coming from. We wanted to know where we could look to find jobs, and it is the best resource you could have.
You can also go to Facebook. There are plenty of Facebook groups out there that talk about work camping, so you can check there as well.
You can also talk to other work campers, either at your work camping jobs or on those Facebook groups, and get referrals and ideas of places that were really great to work.
And the last thing that we can suggest is find the area that you want to go to, make a list of those campgrounds, and start contacting them, letting them know you're available for work camping opportunities, and see what they have available. We have a friend that does this.
I think almost a majority of their jobs were done that way, and these jobs were not listed anywhere. Here are some tips for applying for work camping jobs.
Yes, the first thing you can do is read reviews. They are very important and they give you a lot of information. If the customers aren't happy, there's a very good indication that the work environment isn't a good one as well.
You want to apply for more than one work camping job in that area. I know it's tough because we always end up having our heart set on one particular job, but you may never even hear back from them. So you want to have other options. We also recommend always following up with the employers, and not by phone. You want to make sure that you are respecting them as a business and their time, and you want to just follow up by email. And remember, if they don't respond to you, you probably wouldn't want to work there anyway. We prefer places that are willing to email us back and just say, hey, we've hired out all our positions. We appreciate you so much. Those are the kinds of places we'd like to work. If we're not hearing back from them after we follow up, then we know it's not going to be a good fit. But when I say to follow up by email, what we mean by that is you are tying up their phone lines for reservations, for potential business. And that's something that is important, because if everybody that's applying for these jobs is doing the same thing, it's impacting their business. And we have had employers tell us we don't take phone calls for work camping stuff. If they call, tell them they're going to have to email.
What is the interview process like? It's really laid back. It's very casual. It's usually with the manager or the owner, and you're both just checking to see if you're going to be a good fit. So very casual. There's no reason to get worked up over the interview process.
We were definitely very nervous for those first few interviews, but we've realized it's a very friendly process. Let's talk about the questions that you need to ask on your interview. You want to make sure that you're just asking the most important questions, the ones that would be deal breakers for you. You don't want to spend a ton of time asking them 50 to 100 questions. There's tons of lists floating around out there, and you could really get in the weeds when it comes to asking questions. But just again, ask the ones that would be deal breakers for you.
What is the site arrangement? That's a really good question. Are you working for a free site, or are a certain number of hours going towards your site? And are utilities included? Those are really good things to know.
Wages. How much will I be making if you need wages? And are the wages negotiable?
Are you a 1099 employee, or are you a W-2 employee? You need to know that.
Will training be provided? Sometimes we've shown up and it's basically like, glad you made it. Here's your keys. Other times we have full-blown trainings where we're taken to other facilities and have an entire day of training. We also have had managers who are by our sides for the first week or two, making sure that we're comfortable with the systems and procedures, and other times where we have zero guidance whatsoever, and we're actually going to them and saying, we need a little more guidance on this.
What does the schedule look like? This is really important to us. You're doing this lifestyle for a reason, and you want to know if you're going to have consecutive days off and the same days off each week.
You want to confirm that your hours are guaranteed both each week and through the end date. We have had situations where the employers have told us in the interview process that before Memorial Day and after Labor Day, they have less hours that they're able to give us. We have actually been able to work out arrangements where we were guaranteed the hours that we needed even during those times. But that's going to be something that a lot of employers just can't budge on with their budgets. So you want to make sure that you're asking if your hours are guaranteed.
You also want to ask what a workday looks like and what your responsibilities are going to be. You want to know when you arrive there what it's going to look like, and you don't want them springing things on you that weren't something you agreed to.
Are we able to take time off? And what is the process if we're going to do that? Are we responsible for finding coverage for our shifts, or do we turn in time off requests and you take care of covering our shifts?
This may or may not be important to you, but it's good to know if there is a dress code or if they provide uniforms. Will you be able to just dress casual, that type of thing? We do know someone who wouldn't take a job because there were uniforms or a dress code, and they just didn't want to work in that type of environment. So it's good to know.
This one might be a little obvious, but just to put it in here is asking what the start date is and what the end date is. And if you need a little bit of flexibility on either end, which we always have, you want to make sure that they're okay with that.
Yeah, and the last thing you're going to want to know is, will you be receiving a contract? Is this going to be in writing? Or if not, you can ask for it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people come to us in the comments and say, why does it even matter if it's in writing? Well, it matters to us because we feel it holds the employer accountable for the things that we discussed in the interview. And we also feel like it holds us accountable with them. We want them to know that we're as serious about this as they are. One of the employers that we had that we just absolutely love took this very seriously. And we had a couple of follow-up calls with him where we were just kind of trying to iron out details and stuff. And he said, hey, after we get off this call, do me a favor and just handwrite these things onto the contract and send it back to us, just so that we have everything in writing so that we're clear on expectations for both sides.
And the last reason it's important is because there are things you're going to forget. Once you get there and you're working, she and I have pulled our contracts out and read them and said, oh yeah, this was something we discussed and we totally forgot about it. So it's good to have it in writing as a reminder. Things to remember. You are helping them through the busiest time of their season, so you're likely going to work holidays and weekends.
Yes, and we learned with Matt's law enforcement job that a schedule like that isn't really necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're in a touristy area. To be able to have a couple days off in the middle of the week when a lot of these places stay busy all the time, but a lot of them do have a little bit of a slump midweek, and it is so nice to be able to go places and go to grocery stores and all that stuff and have it be less busy.
And the last thing to remember, this is just a season. You can do anything for 4 or 5 months. I always say that we can do anything for 4 months.
Tips for once you land the job. First of all, be the person who shows up. Hopefully those of you who are watching this are those type of people, but we have heard so many stories of people who do not show up to these jobs, and that is absolutely terrible to do to these work camping employers.
Yeah, the next thing you're going to want to do is show, or at least plan to show up 3 to 4 days early. Now you want to check with the owners and make sure that that's acceptable. Some make you start working 2 or 3 days after you arrive. Maybe it's 10 days. And you want to know that so that you can get there and get settled in.
Yeah, we actually have had people that let us get settled in for like a day and have to start the next day. So you definitely want to clarify what's okay with them. And then give yourself time to adjust. It's so easy to panic with these jobs at the first sign of stress. I've done it. I think you probably haven't. You're a lot more easygoing than I am at these jobs. But a lot of people that we've become friends with, we've all had to talk each other through the panic of the first part of the job. And you want to just make sure that you remember that the employers also need this time to adjust. They're having to adjust to their new employees every single season. So just give grace on both sides.
And stay flexible. You're not always working a 9 to 5 job. And when you first arrive and when you first get into these jobs, it can feel a little rocky. So you just need to stay flexible. It will all work out.
And don't be afraid to ask for more training if you're unsure of a task. There have been times where we've kind of been thrown into jobs and we're both kind of people that need more direction and want to make sure we're doing things not just necessarily the right way, but just because we're both kind of perfectionists and we have a really good work ethic. So we want to make sure that we're meeting their expectations. So don't be afraid to ask for additional training if you need it.
Yeah. And as far as expectations, keep realistic expectations. Not every job's going to be perfect.
And don't be involved in workplace drama. These work camping jobs can get really, really dramatic, and just stay out of it.
And also keep your site tidy. This is really important. Employers do notice this, and we can't tell you how many people, it's like they brought the whole junkyard with them when they showed up. So you want to be representing the campground or RV resort very well.
And get to know the campground rules because you are likely going to be enforcing them.
And practice good campground etiquette because you are both guest and staff. So it's really important.
Thank you so much for being part of today's Work Camping with Why Not Wander podcast. Please make sure you're subscribed on either the podcast platforms or on YouTube. We would love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment. That would mean the world to us. We have so much great information coming. The next one is going to be really good. We have insider tips for work camping success. So we will see you then.